Most people know of sage for stuffing your turkey at Thanksgiving and maybe for sausage, for breakfast sausage. And that's kind of like, that's where people use sage. Well, the reality is this plant has, obviously it's highly aromatic. We all know that. It's full of essential oil compounds. This plant, number one, is a carminative, so it's good for the usual gas, nausea, vomiting, borborygmus, all that kind of stuff. It also has really significant antibacterial activity. It has what we'll call antiviral activity. We know it's useful for viral conditions. We just don't know exactly what it's doing for viral conditions, as we've discussed many a time. It is incredibly useful for things like diarrhea, GI inflammation, GI irritation. It can be used for things like IBS, certainly bacterial diarrhea or dysentery, viral diarrhea or dysentery. It makes an amazing gargle for sore throats. In fact, it's one of my go-tos. Plus, I don't remember who told me this. It was a student who told me a couple years ago that they had been using a gargle of sage for people who had post-COVID loss of taste and smell. I don't remember who told me that, and I said, well, that's really interesting. And so I started trying it with people, because I've had numerous cases, and I'd say about a little more than half the time it actually does work, bringing back this sense of taste and smell as a simple gargle of sage tea. And I don't use simples that often, but this happens to be one in that situation that seems to work very nicely. I also use it for excessive sweating, so not just night sweats, it could be perimenopausal or menopausal night sweats, but anybody who's got a night sweat pattern where they're, sweating too much, sweating at night, you can use garden sage. It also, and there are human studies on this at this point, showing that it's a nootropic. It enhances cerebral circulation. And so with all of that, and that is, it's also a diaphoretic. So you have a fever, you drink a cup or so of hot sage tea, and it increases temperature, you sweat profusely, your body temperature comes down. So, it's just such an amazing herb. And the great thing about it is that I've had people who've had sage that's been sitting in their cupboard in a spice bottle for 5 years, and usually it's still good, unless it's been exposed to a lot of heat. Obviously, it's going to keep its activity better if you have the whole leaves rather than the ground up sage. And when you grind it, it fluffs up. So it's obviously going to lose volatiles much more quickly under those circumstances. It can also be used topically for cuts, scratches, scrapes. You can use it in a neti pot for sinus infections. You can take a bunch of the dried leaves, throw them in boiling water, make a little steam tent as an inhalation for sinusitis, for congestion. It's just, it's basically a first aid kit in a spice jar, but yeah, it pretty much covers it. And it's so easy to grow. So why wouldn't anybody? You can grow it in a pot. It's just, everybody should have some sage. Of course, unfortunately, most people just think that it's primarily used, again, as a culinary and with very limited uses.